Hello everyone, how's it going? I know it's been a long time. It's Levi, formerly of ontheregular.com. I know that's where most of you signed up to become part of this journey that I've been on with ulcerative colitis. Ontheregular.com is no longer. I've just decided to rebrand that to levilasik.com. So that's just my name, LeviLasscsak.com. That's where I'm going to be doing my updates from now on, and I'm going to really rebrand the blog as a lifestyle blog. The reason I wanted to do that is because I didn't want to just focus completely on ulcerative colitis, although that does play a huge role in my life. I just didn't want it to be my entire life. And I'm really involved in so many other things that are much more interesting to me, actually. And a big factor of that is because I have been in complete 100% remission for the last 5 years. So that is tremendous because, as you know, anytime you're in a flare or sick from Crohn's or colitis or something like that, there's really not a lot you can do. And it really does hinder you in your everyday life and, everything you want to accomplish. And I was fortunate enough that I found the right doctors and the right path to get me in complete 100 total percent remission. And really, I don't even consider remission anymore. I would consider myself cured because I've reached the 5-year mark. And even medical doctors consider cancer patients cured after 5 years of remission with cancer. So I think at that point, it's fair to say that I have been cured as well. And I was able to do that 100% natural, without any medications, without surgery, even though I was literally on my deathbed, and overcame that. So there is hope if there's any of you out there that are in that situation and you're so sick and you think that nothing else may work or your only option is surgery. I can't recommend that you don't do that. If there's any other way that you have an opportunity to try something else, then there are answers out there. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So I am going to be updating a lot more now because it took me about a full year. So what really happened was in May 2013 my ulcerative colitis just hit me like a semi-truck, basically. So from those of you that know my story, I acquired colitis in 2005 in Iraq while on deployment. And I was only a couple of months in country, and I just started having the symptoms, the urgency and the bleeding and things like that. So, I saw some military doctors there in Iraq. They coughed it up to just, diet or ate something bad or something like that. Didn't think it was really that big of a deal. So when I came home from Iraq in 2006, I was still experiencing symptoms on and off, and I would go in and out of remission. So I'd have symptoms for a month or 2 or 3 sometimes, and then it would stop and it would go away. And at that time I had no clue what was going on, and I was actually a little stubborn, the fact that I didn't want to go to the doctor or tell them what was going on. So I went 4 years after coming back undiagnosed, basically in and out of remission, and it just became a point that it was too much. Around 2009, I started just having more consistent symptoms, and the bleeding started to pick up and things like that. So at that point, I knew that I needed to go see the doctor. Once I told them, they immediately referred me to a GI doctor, and of course that GI doctor immediately got me into a colonoscopy. And then in 2009, that's whenever I got the official diagnosis of ulcerative colitis. So of course, medication, automatically, mesalamine, I was taking oral and enema. So, that was always a fun thing to do, especially if people came over and they wouldn't use your bathroom and they saw little enemas in the trash can or something like that. They're wondering, hey, what's going on? But, I had nothing to hide. I was always very open with everyone and had no problem telling them exactly what was going on in my life. So, it is what it is. And so I went a couple of years on medication, just like everybody else normally does, and still the same, in and out of remission, just was not getting any lasting results. 2011 is whenever I met somebody that started to turn me on to a gluten-free diet, natural, organic, that sort of mentality and lifestyle. And at that time, I was pretty much eating anything I wanted to. But again, I tended to stay away from gluten and things like that because I never really felt well afterwards. I always felt bloated or uncomfortable or things like that. So, it's just one of those things where you meet somebody and then they start adjusting your lifestyle and you go along with that. So as soon as I cut out gluten, that really, really helped a lot. And I just, I wasn't experiencing the bloating or being uncomfortable after meals or things like that. So that was a really big help for me as well. And then going organic, I think I just enjoyed that a lot more. To me, I think the food tastes better. I completely agree with the whole premise of eating raw food or organic food or food that hasn't been treated with chemicals or pesticides or anything like that. And so I was on board with that as well. But I was still eating beef and chicken and everything else of that nature. So, and then I started juicing. And of course, those are the videos that you've come across before because I was really, really into juicing and mainly juicing cabbage juice with some carrot and apple. Cabbage juice has been shown to reduce inflammation in the gut and ulcers to help with that. So that was a big, big plus for me, and it helped a lot. And that got me into remission. Again, I was able to stop medication. So I stopped medication and was pretty much on remission for a couple of years, 2011 to 2013, just with juicing. But then we went to the Dominican Republic, and of course probably picked up a couple of parasites there. Actually, I did pick up a couple of parasites, but that just kind of triggered everything and just, like I said, hit me like a semi-truck. Whenever we got home that next day, clearly I was so sick. I started cramping every single 10 minutes, like gut-wrenching, tears in my eyes, cramps. They would last for 2 to 3 minutes, would just literally buckle me over, and then of course I started to end up in the restroom almost every hour. And within 3 days after that, I had to go to the hospital. I was so dehydrated because my body was just dumping everything. I could barely even hold in water, and it was literally just purging my body of food, everything else. Again, I was literally in the restroom probably 20 to 24 times a day. At that point, I was really tired, sleep deprived, because I was still waking up every hour to go to the restroom as well. Sometimes it was a little, sometimes it was a lot, of course, a lot of bleeding and things like that. But it's a scary situation. Had to go in the hospital 3 days later for dehydration. Felt better, came home. As soon as I got home, it all just started all over again. Ended up going to the hospital 3 or 4 times for dehydration. Finally got to the point where the GI doctor we started to see again, of course wanted to do another colonoscopy. And at that point, they nearly killed me because I was so malnourished and so dehydrated. And then they scheduled my procedure for 1 p.m. So, of course, you had to do the whole flushing your system and not eating for, after midnight. Well, instead of going in at 8 a.m., going in at 1 p.m., that's an extra 5 hours that, you can't eat or anything of that nature. So by the time I got to the hospital, I was literally in and out of consciousness. I couldn't even walk. They had to put me in a wheelchair and wheel me around. And finally, after a lot of fight, they finally wheeled me in and got me on IVs and then did the colonoscopy. And I tell you what, when I came out of that, the doctor was in complete shock, and his eyes were this big around. And he came out and he just said, "This is one of the worst colons I've ever seen." And they had the pictures and the images and started to show me, and he said, "Look, I highly recommend we need to start Remicade almost immediately." And of course, Remicade's a low-dose chemotherapy that they use for autoimmune patients. So it's just one of those things where, you're like, okay, well, he was very, very adamant about doing it almost that quickly. However, I had been on steroids, so they cannot give you Remicade without doing a TB test first, or tuberculosis test, of course, because, again, chemo hurts your immune system, brings it down quite a bit. So at that point, the other problem was that I couldn't have a tuberculosis test because I had been on steroids, so you actually have to come off of steroids for 2 weeks before you can do the TB test. And then the TB test takes about 10 days to get those results back at that time. So, that was the saving grace of that aspect of not infusing me with chemo right then and there. So luckily, we avoided that. And in that time frame, just within those 2 weeks, I was seriously considering doing it. I wanted to do it. I didn't care at that point. And even the doctor said if the chemo doesn't work, he wanted me to consult with the surgeon to consider having my colon removed at that point, which really was not an option for me. But at the same time, I was so sick that I would have almost done anything, and I probably would have let them cut out my colon if it wasn't for my wife at the time that had, completely refused to let that happen. So luckily, within that 2-week time frame, I was able to find the right doctors, the right natural doctors that, helped put me on a path to healing. And that's how I was able to start coming back naturally, without medication, without surgery. Now, this story is absolutely tremendous, and it's unbelievable at times as well. But I tell you what, I found the right people at the right times over the next year that led to my complete and total recovery. It took me a full year to recover and to gain my weight back, because during that time frame I had lost 50 pounds. So I got all my weight back, took a full year to recover, found the right doctors, 5 doctors. It was 5 different doctors that I saw, met, and worked with over that course of that year. And every single one of them was the right doctor for the next step in my progression to recovery. So it was a huge benefit, a huge blessing. It was just tremendous what took place there. So, but those doctors are in Chicago, they're in Pittsburgh, one's in Portland. Now, if you're in those areas, I highly recommend them. I will be, updating you on that information. Of course, we've already gone long this time, but the story is so tremendous as far as what took place over that year, and I'm going to be documenting that, or basically telling you about it in different increments, because it is such a long story that I'm going to break that up and give you those pieces so that you'll have an understanding of what helped me. So over the last 5 years, to be in complete total remission and what I consider fully cured now from ulcerative colitis. And you saw from the thumbnail at the beginning of the picture of how I used to look was absolutely horrific. You can also go to levilassic.com, check out the blog post there. You'll see the before and after picture of 2013 versus 2018. It is tremendous. I tell you what, I'm so happy to be here, to be healthy, to not miss a beat over the last 5 years, to be able to live a normal life, to have a great business and starting a new business on top of that. So that's why I also wanted to do a lifestyle blog, because I'm going to be documenting not just what happened to me, but what's happening to me. So that's going to be the main focus of this blog, because now we're going to be building a new business, and I want to bring you guys along for the ride if you're willing to join me, and I hope so. Because I'm going to be learning. It's a completely new industry that I'm involved in. So for me to work on that's very, very exciting for me. And I just hope that you come along for that ride, because it's going to be a product as well that I think would do well for also Crohn's and colitis, people that are stuck at home a lot as well. So it's a great comfort item to try to make your situation a little bit more comfortable. And I think there's so many other uses that this product will have. I don't really want to get into it too much now, because that'll come at the right time. But I thank you all for joining me right now, listening to the update. And again, expect a lot more information, content, updates to come down the road, because I'm back. And I'm just so excited about everything that's going on. And if I can help you in any way, please let me know. Please comment, or share this video if you think it might help somebody else. I really appreciate your time. Again, go to levilassic.com if you want to follow up on the story and see the before and after pictures. So I appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.